Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my review of Season 1 of Slasher. Slasher aired a few months ago. It started back in March. And of course it aired originally on Chiller TV or Super Channel in Canada, I guess. It's an original series by Chiller. I like Chiller. I even liked the movie they did called Animal with Elizabeth Gillies. I like that one quite a bit as a decent creature feature type of thing. And Slasher, of course, being a big horror fan, I was immediately interested in a TV series centering around the idea of a slasher and a story about that. So that and the fact that the lead actress in this is Katie McGrath, who I really enjoy as Morgana in the Merlin TV series on BBC or Sci-Fi, depending on where you watched it, which I still need to watch more of, by the way. So her involvement and her being in the lead role really made me even more interested in it. I just finished watching it last night on Netflix. And overall, I did like it quite a bit. I felt like it was, it does have a really good cast. Like I said, Katie McGrath, Brandon J. McLaren, who had a role on Graceland not too long ago, but he's done plenty of other stuff as well. And then the rest of the cast, there's even Rob Stewart. He is the priest of the town. And I specifically know him from Nikita. He played Roan, Percy's, right-hand man. So it's cool to see him on here as well. And the rest of the cast as well, too. We have Steve Byers as Cam. He's the main police officer in the story. We had Dean McDermott as Ian Bond. He's the police captain. He did pretty well, too. And the rest of the cast, they're really fine as well. I think. You had another highlight was definitely Patrick Garrow. He played Tom Winston. He was actually the original killer, which we'll talk about in a second. And then even the Christopher Jackat, who played Robin. A friend of Katie McGrath's character. All right, but before we get into more specific things about the show, let me tell you a little bit about the plot. So I'll just read you the plot right here. Slasher's 8-episode first season centers around Sarah Bennett, which is Katie McGrath's character, who with her husband Dylan. Of course, that was Brendan J. McLaren, moved back to their town of birth, or the town of her birth anyway, Waterbury, and that's a fictional town in Canada, into her parents' former home. It was in that house on Halloween night, 1988, where both of her parents, Bryan and Rachel, were horrifically murdered. Rachel was pregnant with Sarah at the time of her murder, with police discovering the killer holding Rachel's newborn baby. He excised her from her mother's womb after the slayings. Sarah is returned to Waterbury in the present day is greeted with the start of a series of copycat murders, all appearing to be at the hands of the executioner, a figure wearing a medieval-style outfit, identical to the one worn by the killer of Sarah's parents. And I probably read that more smoothly than it would have been if I just tried to explain all that. But I did like when they showed, the actual moment of Sarah's parents actually being killed. Sorry about that. Because that really sort of set the tone for the show, I thought. Because just seeing this supposedly happy, normal couple, all of a sudden just seeing the husband get stabbed, and then seeing the pregnant mother, slip on the blood and fall on the floor and then get a knife through her throat. That's a pretty brutal way to start a show. And of course the horror, blood gore fan in me, it appreciates some more violent scenes like that. So, and then I thought it was pretty eerie and creepy, but also a little bit interesting when we seen Tom Winston, the original killer who did this, just cradling Sarah in the chair, rocking her back and forth until the police showed up. So it makes you wonder about his reasoning, his motivation, his potential connection to her. Obviously there's going to be spoilers in this video. I put it in the title so I don't have to remember to say it in the videos all the time. But yes, spoilers for sure. So it does have its brutal scenes. We do see a good amount of the killings. They're all pretty violent. The first couple, especially though, the first couple are a little bit more direct. Just stabbing or direct killing like that. The rest are a little bit more maybe not elaborate, but a little bit more based on what is known as the seven deadly sins, and that's what turned out to be the killer's plan. So of course there was. Let me look this up real quick. Not particularly religious, so I can't really remember all of them. But yeah, there's wrath, gluttony, envy, sloth, greed, lust, and pride. The first victim we see is Verna McBride. And, she is a woman who is sort of, despised by the town. She's a little bit mean, a little bit grouchy. She gets her hands and feet chopped off and, tied to the bed. And basically, Robin's boyfriend, Justin, he ends up, he had a cocaine issue, so he ends up being poisoned or something along those lines. Envy, Brenda, who is Sarah's grandmother, she ends up being drowned, with a cinder block tied to her leg. And then he had Tren and June, and let's see. Yeah, I know June, she was left in this field with, animal bites and stuff like that. Then he had Ian Vaughn, he was the main police captain, but he ended up having this tie to, keeping a little girl in his basement, who the whole town thought was killed years ago or missing. So that was different. Well, not different, but, that was deserved for sure. And, of course, there's this whole question throughout the series, do these people actually deserve it? It sort of comes up a little bit in the later part of the season, saying, we don't really condone his actions, but, you can't really deny that some of these people actually did deserve it. So those are some of, the main kills in the movie, and in the show, sorry. And, the show, although it does, like I said, have its more brutal and violent moments, which I appreciated, it's more so, I'd say, more of a mystery and suspense drama thriller type of thing, as opposed to a horror or a slasher type of series as it's billed. I'd consider more of a mystery with, some horror type elements mixed in. And the mystery itself, who is the killer, of course, that's the main question. And the way that played out, I thought was okay for the most part. I thought the show did end up falling into some cliches towards the end, but it wasn't completely predictable in who it ended up being. Because of course the seven deadly sins. Of course you think, oh, it's probably the preacher then, right? It didn't really turn out to be, but it turned out to be his son. Cam, the main cop, who is a close friend of Sarah's, and potential love interest. Because even though Sarah was with Dylan, Dylan is an editor-in-chief, he's a writer. There was some stuff that came out about him, actually being with Sarah to get a story, and, focus a little bit more on his greed almost, and how he was, putting his career over, his supposed love for her and such. So he sort of thought as Cam as, the potential final love interest. I actually thought Dylan was going to end up being, killed within the last couple episodes or something, but it turns out Dylan's actually, a little bit more genuine than Cam. Let me see this flashback of Cam. He had a little bit more of a twisted thing go on when he's a child, killing his mother, actually. So he's not this perfect, cop or this perfect person like he seems to be. But, so Cam ended up being the killer, and, it wasn't the most predictable thing, but was within the three possibilities, I thought, really. Because I thought it was going to be the preacher, who's Cam's father. I thought it could have been Ian Vaughn, just because he was more of the, grumpy police captain. It turned out he was a pervert and weird, twisted, whatever it is. But then Cam being the killer, I thought it was a little bit predictable because he is the son of the preacher and such. And, of course, the supposed perfect person and things like that. So, The fact that it ended up being Cam was a little bit of a letdown, but not as bad of a reveal as it could have been. I did think they did play it well once they showed it. They played it as well as they could, I thought. But of course, like I said, it does fall into some cliches towards the end, and once in a while throughout the series. But Cam ends up framing Dylan for being the executioner. Just placing all this evidence, this little collection of things he kept from the different scenes of the people he killed. He places that in where Dylan and Sarah are living at, in the original home, and people just sort of buy into that and think, oh yeah, Dylan's definitely it now. And then of course Sarah ends up having sex with Cam and then regretting it, of course, and then asking more questions, even though she already, you know how it goes. Oh, she ends up sleeping with him, but then she finds out he's the killer after all. It just seems a little bit generic, a little bit laughable to me. But of course, Sarah does end up finding out that is Cam in the end. And the way she went about it was a little bit stupid at first, because she basically talks to him at a party and is acting all happy with him and stuff. And then she takes him outside the party in a secluded area and tries to stab him on her own. I don't see that as being a very bright idea. But the way it ended was actually pretty good, though. We'll talk about that in a second. The most interesting character for me, though, this season was probably the original executioner, Tom Winston. Like I said, I thought he was played pretty well, and it turns out that he is actually Sarah's father. He turned out to be wrapped in this whole history with Sarah's mother, and it turned out that Sarah's mother and who she thought was her original father, who was killed, were actually having sex with other people's boyfriends or husbands and wives and stuff like that. They basically had a lot held against them from the other members of the town. The other citizens of the town, I should say. Whatever. So they end up not being perfect people, and Tom ended up being more interesting. We've seen that he did have a deep connection and motivation to get to know Sarah and try and protect her in the end eventually. And when the executioner, or who we eventually now know as Cam, goes after Sarah for pride, because apparently Sarah had tried to take her life at one point, but Tom sort of takes it for her, and I thought that was a really good moment. It was sad to see Tom die, but I'm glad he and Sarah got the connection. They had some really nice and touching conversations before that, whereas earlier in the season, she was more so going to Tom as sort of like a Hannibal, advice seeker type of thing. The way Sarah finally deals with Cam in the end, though, like I said, it is a little bit stupid at first, but of course the final confrontation is in the house. Dylan shows up and he tries to fight Cam off. Cam, knocks him out. I'm not sure why he didn't kill him there. Then he keeps on going after Sarah, and Sarah, actually gets stabbed, but then Sarah ends up finally at the right moment, and she ends up stabbing Cam over and over. Not quickly either, slowly, just pushing the knife into him, a good handful of times, one time after the other, if that makes any sense. Basically just taking revenge for everything he did to the town and to her family. So I did like that moment for Sarah in particular, because Katie McGrath was playing her, so it's good to see Katie McGrath show that more twisted, violent side of the character, which I thought was still deserved, but still different to see our main female sort of go down that darker path. But again, it still makes sense when you think about it. But yeah, so a central mystery, it was okay. It was somewhat predictable, but not as predictable as it could have been. Like I said, the acting is really good all around, Katie McGrath in particular. She did really well in the show, I thought. Yeah, so I did overall like it. I like I said, did kind of go down for me as the season went along. But apparently, if it does get a second season, it's going to sort of be like American Horror Story. I haven't really watched that, but if there's another season, they're going to try and keep the same cast, but change the story, change the setting, change the characters, which I think could be really interesting. Like I said, I like the cast. I don't really have a problem with them keeping them. And to see Katie McGrath in a different role, maybe she'll be the killer this time, maybe she'll play the bitch of the story. I think it'd be fun to see. I do hope they do another season of it. I'd be interested in watching more for sure. But let me know what you guys thought about, as horror fans or just as fans of a decent mystery or thriller. Let me know what you guys thought about it. I did enjoy it. I probably will be buying it. I think it is coming out on DVD and Blu-ray in July, I want to say. So let me know what you guys thought. I did enjoy it overall, minus a few problems with the cliches it fell into, and the mystery not being like overly surprising in the end, but still being done well. But yeah, catch you guys next time. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and thefriendsfilda.com. Peace.